Hey guys, it's Gabby,
And Willem.
and this is the Willem and Gabby Yap Show. We are videoing this episode, so we have it recording, we have it videoing, and we're live currently. So there's quite a few platforms for you guys to see this on. But yeah, do you want to go over what we're going to be talking about today?
Gabby and I are now engaged.
We're engaged.
Yes. Just over the weekend, on Saturday, April 18th, I asked the question, and
Yeah.
She obviously said yes.
Of course. I said yes. There's a ring on my finger now, which is crazy. Yeah, it's actually crazy, and I'm so excited. But this podcast episode is entirely about the proposal and leading up to it and a bunch of questions and stuff. So for you guys who are who are listening on air, you guys can send in questions, and for you guys who are watching on YouTube later, you guys can comment, and I will try to get to as many comments as I can. Yeah, but anyway, so let's get into some of the questions I have prepared, because this is basically asking the process. This is like going over the process. So yeah, we're going to talk about the actual engagement and stuff, but we're also going to talk about the whole process that he went through before the proposal. When did you first decide you wanted to propose? Was there like a moment, or did it just kind of just start feeling like you were ready?
I feel like it was just the progression of everything. Just like, that's a good question. I did, for context, Gabby sent these questions to me ahead of time so I could like think about them. I completely forgot that she did that, and I didn't read any of them. So
that's okay. Yeah, we get the real stuff.
I don't know exactly when the moment would have been, but it was sometime around December that I ended up asking my parents for, well, before then actually, that I asked my parents for the diamond that I would then make into the ring, which I would use to propose. Yeah.
Why'd you ask your parents for the diamond? Just for those who don't know.
Oh, of course, yeah. So my dad, I don't know exactly when in the timeline of their relationship this was, but my dad bought my mom some very nice diamond earrings at one point in time with the promise that if they were to have boys, and at least two of them, that the the different boys would be able to propose to their future wives via the diamonds of these earrings. So I think like an heirloom and all that is like a lot more meaningful. It would also just be because this is already something that the family has. It would be very rude if I didn't as well. But I mean, just like
that's true.
In general, I'm just not a huge fan of like Diamond Corporation stuff and blah blah blah. Not going to go into that, but I'm very thankful that I was able to get the diamond and ring separately, and for it to have already been something that we had. Yeah.
How did you decide on the timing? Like, how did you decide when you wanted to propose?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I knew I was going to want to. I knew I was going to want to do it sometime this semester. I knew during the summer, with us working who knows what jobs, because I had no idea, and other things going on, I just assumed school is a more predictable
time
frame and
yeah,
such.
That's fair.
And I also just didn't want to wait that long.
Neither did I, let's be real.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to wait that long either. What factors influenced your choice of location? Like, how did you come up with Manitou Park to begin with? But then also, how did you come up with where in Manitou Park to do it?
Sure. Yeah, so as she just stated, I proposed to her in Manitou Park. We had been there a few times before, and so like it felt more meaningful to me than just to take her to some random place in Spokane that's beautiful. Um, I I also just didn't see a lot of other options of places that we've been in Spokane that are like proposal worthy. Um,
Yeah, it's probably, I mean, like, it is stereotypical to get proposed to or to propose at Manitou Park,
sure,
but
yes.
it's stereotypical for a reason. It's
Mhm.
gorgeous. Like,
And another thing is, I knew that she was going to know ahead of time that it was going to happen. I wanted to keep a lot of a lot of things a surprise about it.
and he did.
But I knew actually keeping it a surprise up until the day is impossible. Um, and so I'm okay having it be at a location like that. Um, Especially since I wanted like a photographer and some people to come up and everything. It's yeah.
Yeah, actually, that sort of goes into my next question. Because my next question was, how did you balance surprise with also making sure that I would be comfortable and that I would get what I wanted out of a proposal? How did you
Mhm.
go through deciding what that balance was going to be like? Because
That's
obviously
fair.
I knew that you were proposing, and I knew the day. I was wearing white. I knew it was happening. I had my makeup done. I had my hair done. I was wearing white. Um, but like, how did you choose to go about that balance of like some surprise while also like making sure that like I'm comfortable and I'm in what I wanted to be and I was dressed up the way I wanted to and all of that.
It was very important to me that the photos be candid. I didn't want to know. I didn't want Gabby to know like what angle the camera person's going to be at and all that kind of stuff. I didn't want it to just be. I also didn't want it to just be like we're walking with another friend of ours who just happens to be there, and then out of nowhere they get out a phone and I get on one knee or something. Like I I wanted actual photos. Um,
They are beautiful, by the
yeah, props to the photographer.
way.
Very well done job. Um, but yeah, like some of the ways that I kept things secret was like I was in contact with a friend of mine named Mike. He helped orchestrate a lot of the stuff for me. I was very like worried about if a notification pops up on my screen while I'm showing Gabby something, or if we're just like sitting next to each other and the sound goes off and she's like, "Who's that?" You know, I don't I didn't want the chance that any correspondence that I'm having in relation to the engagement be something that she's able to see, and so a lot of the stuff was just done through calling Mike and checking up with him to see how he's coordinating things. But yeah, that's just like one example. A lot of the other times it was just like I would plan. Hmm, I know for a fact that I'm gonna want to take Gabby to some fancy dinner on the Saturday of or the Sunday after. That's one of the things that she didn't know ahead of time.
I didn't
I
know.
I purposely, any details that pertain to the engagement, if I didn't have to say it, if she didn't have to know it, I basically just wouldn't tell her, and she wouldn't even know that there was something that I'm not telling her. That was my main goal, is to like how to keep as much of it a surprise as possible. But also like to a degree, Gabby hates surprises, so
True.
um, I didn't want her to know what weekend it was going to be, and leading up to the weekend, in like I don't know, 24 days beforehand, I don't think she actually knew which one it was. So I had done a pretty good job at that, but by a certain point, it became pretty clear that it was going to be one of two weekends, and they were right after each other. So like the Tuesday of that week leading up to that first Saturday, I uh, I basically told her, "Hey, it's going to be the 18th."
Was that like difficult, not really being the person who's like communicating with everyone else, or did you like that? Like, did you feel like it was more complicated? Did you like, yeah.
Yes and no. So, like, for example, getting in contact with Amberly, that's something. So, Gabby had told
My
me.
best high school friend.
Yeah. To clarify, Gabby had told me quite a bit about how she wanted the proposal to go. She actually wanted the photographer more than I did, and she requested that whenever it were to happen, that her good friend Amberly would come up for it. Gabby really wanted Amberly to be there, and I knew that was one of the things I was going to have to do, and I felt like I got in contact with her too late. She ended up, she of course made it, and
Yay.
I said to her, like, I feel bad about how late it was that I got in contact with you, and then she was like, no, it's fine. So I was stressing over nothing, but I mean, like, all of those texts happened through Mike. So I never even saw a screenshot of it. I had made for certain that it was the correct Amberly, just based off of like it was either Instagram or Snapchat name, and the fact that they were friended to you.
You Instagram stalked Amberly.
Yeah, basically. I never asked you for her contact.
That's right, you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even notice that. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
So, I don't know. I'm just like generally worried about it any time that I'm not directly seeing the messages. I could have calmed my nerves a lot by just asking him to send a screenshot at a time when, Gabby wouldn't have been able to see the messages.
Did you do like any research like going into it?
I mean, most of my research was just Gabby. So
I kind of exactly knew what I wanted, except when it comes to the ring. So we'll talk specifically about the ring later.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother subject.
Well, we have time.
Yeah. This is gonna be a long episode for
all of you guys listening live.
She's just very worried about how it's going to go, and would basically be constantly asking me clarifying questions about like, so did you talk to a photographer yet? Did
it was not a surprise.
When am I gonna have to get my nails done? When am I gonna and all these kinds of different things. But a lot of it got me to like understand the certain things that I needed to be doing. So I didn't have to do as much like research about what is something that someone usually forgets about or doesn't think about. Obviously, I can't predict what the weather's actually going to be like. So if I choose one weekend without backup weekends, how might that work if it's raining on the day or something like that? Luckily, I was watching the weather, and well, sometimes it said things that were not favorable. By the closer we got, the more favorable it looked, and yeah, it ended up being pretty sunny that day. So there was like some research I had to do. Like, for example, I got in contact with my older brother Garrett for a few things.
Shout out to Garrett. He's probably also not listening because we didn't text him.
Yeah. He helped me get in contact with the photographer, and he also told me the local jewelry store that I should go to get the diamond made, the ring made from the diamond. That's where a lot of the research normally would be, like reaching out to photographers, checking out different jewelry stores, checking out the prices and such. I didn't have to do nearly as much of that.
So going to the ring, now because you mentioned it, there's quite a few questions I have about the ring. For starters, how much like research did you do going into it? Were you really scared of prices?
I was basically going into it with a lot of, I do not know what prices are going to look like. Usually the most expensive part of any ring, well, I mean, not usually, the most expensive part of a ring is the diamond. And because I'm not getting the diamond, I'm just getting the ring and setting it in. It would vary for like how much does it cost to set it in versus just buying the ring. How much time will it take for the ring to set in? A lot of this was stuff that I just didn't know, and in the same conversation that I had with Garrett, where I figured out which jewelry store to go with, he gave me some ballpark estimates on some things, but it was both cheaper and quicker than expected. I think it took like a grand total of 2 days for the
That was
diamond to get
crazy.
set in, and I was like, that's really cool. Can you hold on to it for like 6 more days? Because I wasn't planning to be free to go pick this up for a while. This is a lot earlier in the process, so there was a period of time between like, okay, I have the diamond, I have the ring now, and a big waiting period. Like,
Very big. When did you get the ring?
oh, I don't even remember. It was,
Sometime in February?
yeah, it was before the India trip, which we did a podcast on.
We left on February 14th. We left on that one for Valentine's Day. So you had the ring for quite a while.
Yeah. I'd actually gone to the jewelry store twice. The first time I had brought, this is so silly. I had brought a ring that Gabby had been given that fits her perfectly, so I could get like what the size is, and to look at rings for a bit. But the first time that I went, I didn't actually remember to bring the diamond itself. That was going to have to be set in.
That's a little funny. I did not know that.
Yeah, no, I never mentioned this. And so, like, the people behind the counter thought that I was just talking about removing the diamond from the one ring and putting it into another. And so when I came back the second time, and it was the same woman who was helping me, I had to clarify and be like, yeah, so I kind of just didn't correct you here, and because I was too nervous. So that was a fun moment. But yeah, collective time that I spent in that shop must have been like 5 to 6 hours.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Because I had narrowed it down to like 3 options, but I kept coming back to different options and different things. Because I had tried to talk to Gabby before about what she wanted in a ring. Whilst Gabby didn't have nearly as clear of an image in her mind of what kind of a diamond ring she wanted, as she did for a wedding dress, for example, I knew that she didn't want yellow gold, and I also knew that she didn't want the diamond to look like it was barely being held on by like tiny prongs or something like that, because that's a very popular design at this point in time, especially with,
really thin bands, really big diamonds.
Yeah, exactly. I purposely got one that's thicker, not just because it would look like it's holding the diamond better, but also because in case the size needs to be adjusted just slightly, that
it's a lot
it's
easier.
Not a big deal.
It's a lot easier to do something like that.
Yeah.
And I very much wanted it to look secure and feel secure, and
yeah,
and I just like the look of older styles, more intricate detailing. You know, I hate the idea of just a thin, especially gold, a really thin gold band with a big diamond. That just, to me, lots of people love it. To me, it's just not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew it was going to be of the color of silver, but what material to pick, I didn't know. This is something I had to do a bit of research on. I ended up going with what is now by far the most popular option for that color, which is white gold. And I was like very hesitant the first time when I was talking to the lady behind the desk, and I was like, white gold? I thought I just told you I don't want the color gold, and she's like, no, I'm joking. She didn't sigh or anything, but she explained to me like, no, this is, you know, it's stronger than tin, not tin, silver, and it's well, it's a little bit weaker than what was the other popular metal? It's not titanium. It's titanium's way
Platinum?
too heavy. Platinum. Yes,
Platinum?
thank you. Platinum scuffs up a lot easier.
It's also
And-
expensive.
Yeah, it removes its shine a lot quicker, and it's way more expensive. White gold is both stronger than silver, and it doesn't, and it keeps its shine better than platinum. So it's like a nice, it's a Goldilocks solution. And so yeah, that's why I picked that material.
Mhm.
There was still like a bunch of rings to pick from though that were the correct size and material. So in my mind, it was it was really easy to rule out a lot of them because they looked ridiculous.
I've seen some of the photos since he proposed because he took a bunch of photos of the rings that he was looking at, and some of them do look absolutely
Oh yeah,
ridiculous looking. But to each their own.
yes, exactly.
Some people will think my ring looks ridiculous. That's, you know, it is, you know, people have different opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I started looking at some of the rings, I noticed a lot of them had two different kinds of characteristics, either very geometric or very organic. And a lot of the geometric rings, it would be like maybe 4 perfectly symmetrical prongs coming up around the diamond, and the whole thing of it being perfect symmetry and not really complex shapes, but detail, but all of the detail was like strongly angled, straight lines, no curves. And a lot of other rings were the exact opposite, very organic, like leaf-like patterns and such. And I really ended up liking the leaves, the kind of look of it almost being like a flower or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big part of why I ended up picking the one that I did.
Yeah, there's some little like almost leaf things with some lots of mini little tiny diamond things.
Yeah.
I had little to say. He asked me so specifically. He got home from the jewelry store the first time and goes, "Hey, so how do you feel about floating diamonds? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about this pattern?" And I'm like, I didn't even know that was an option.
Yeah. So
what?
This is one of the things I found so interesting. There was a bunch of these rings that held up the diamond in such a way that you could see the full body of it.
Mm-hmm.
From specific angles. Like,
it's sort of that way in this. It's not as dramatic.
But
there is an angle you can sort of see it slightly floating.
Yeah, so I really liked I liked the concept of floating, because I thought it looked just so cool to be able to see the bottom point of the diamond, and you could have like some of the floating rings still had like a decent amount of metal coming up to it on both sides, and just had like a gap in between where the diamond was.
Mm-hmm.
And so that way it's like it still very much feels like the diamond is securely in place. And I knew that was the thing that really mattered to Gabby more than floating, but whether or not it was, you know, actually fully concealed. And so I was like kind of conflicted at first, which is why I needed to like ask her about it before I picked one out, because the ones that were my favorite, one of them that I ended up picking out, from a specific angle, if you look at it, you can see the bottom point of the diamond, which means that's not just being held against metal or something. And I was like, ew, I don't know.
And he asked me all these questions, and I'm like, I don't know. He expected me to have really strong opinions, and then I didn't. And he was like, but I really, really love what he picked out.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing about the ring is I have no earthly idea how we're doing a wedding band. There is not an easy way to do a wedding band with this ring.
I didn't even
Think of
think
that.
about that for a second. It was really hard for me to decide. I spent a long time looking at these rings, and out of the top 3 that I ended up narrowing it down to, I guarantee Gabby probably would have had the same reaction to all of them. Like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing.
Probably.
This is the one because it's organic. It's kept together very nicely. It shows a good
Shiny.
amount of the diamond. It's nice and shiny. It's big. It's white gold, and it's the size that she needs. All of the boxes are checked.
Yay. And it's very pretty. What was your biggest challenge that you faced while planning the actual proposal?
I took way too long to actually get a photographer. And yeah, my biggest challenge was finding one in time. And because, for example, I got in contact with like 2 different photographers at one point in time, and the main one that I was really hoping would be able to take the photos, and luckily was able to, had
Yay.
another shoot the same day.
Yeah.
And it sounded like the only way that it was going to work is if it was like an early morning proposal, or it was going to be in the middle of the day when the sun is directly above us and the lighting is terrible, which
not
you
great
know,
for photos.
Exactly. So it was definitely stressful trying to figure out all of that and be like, because there was a point in time leading up to the 2 weeks where I was like, am I going to have to delay this to a different weekend? If I had to delay this to a different weekend, is there even another weekend that works this well? Like, yeah. Especially since, like, I had already gotten in contact with Amberly to take days off work. Peyton was already taking days off work. Huge amount of people in on this, and photographer stuff, communication is being slow, and yeah, no, it was stressful, but it's pretty much just entirely on me because I didn't deal with it faster than as fast as I should have.
Did anything go differently than you originally planned, and how did you handle it, or how did our friends handle it?
Yes. Yes. So on the Wednesday before the Saturday that I would be proposing.
Wednesday? Thursday?
I thought it was the Wednesday. Maybe it was. Oh no, it was definitely the Thursday because I don't have any classes on Thursday. Mike had just come in, and basically the story that we had and that we had told Gabby is that we were all going to go get Dutch Bros because Mike and I love Dutch. This is something that we used to get all the time when we lived in Idaho. Wasted a lot of money there. And we actually did end up getting Dutch Bros that day. So it was only partially a lie, because most of the day in which I said I would be going to Picard, one of the buildings on campus, to study, we spent in Manitou, and we were mapping out the idea of where we would be walking, and I was, live messaging back and forth with the photographer as we were walking through different places, and I shared different ideas of, maybe here could work. What do you think about this?
And there's some really funny photos of Mike and
Yes.
Peyton proposing to each other.
Yeah,
just to see the photos.
I got to be the cameraman to see the angle as I'm taking the photos. I can't be posing in these photos. I remember like one of the places I was so certain I was going to do it was in the botanical gardens, like the that's not the right word. The greenhouse.
The greenhouse. The greenhouse is gorgeous.
It is. It is so beautiful. That is not what we ended up picking out, just because the photographer had mentioned like a cherry tree near the Rose Hill, and I was like, what do you mean Rose Hill? It took a moment even just to like figure out
where they were talking about.
Yeah, and all that kind of different stuff. But eventually, I got there. We figured out how we were going to kind of want the different angles we could see the photo being taken from, and the cherry tree enabled the photographer to be able to hide behind one of the trees and such as we were coming up to it.
It also let all of our friends hide in the trees.
Yes.
I knew there was a hidden photographer because we talked about having a photographer. I had no earthly idea that our friends were hidden in the trees.
Yeah. For more context, like if you haven't seen the actual Instagram post or anywhere else I've shared the photos, basically everyone who was going to be going to the dinner later that day.
Not everyone.
Nearly everyone who was going to the dinner later that day were there at the park to surprise her and say congratulations. Yeah, but we had got in Mike and an old friend of mine, Nathan, and we had Amberly there. And whilst Gabby knew that Amberly would be coming up for the weekend, or perhaps the next weekend to celebrate, she had no clue that it was going to be like the moment after I had gotten on one knee and the photos had started being taken, which actually means we got some really great photos of in the same area, Gabby like hugging Amberly and me with my friends. So I think it ended up going great.
But what went wrong? What went the way you didn't plan it was my original question. There's a lot of prefaces that had to be done.
Yeah, a lot of context needed. During, like, after we had decided it was going to be the cherry tree, we were talking to each other about, because it was Mike, Payton, and I there, and we were all talking about, like, okay, what is the actual path that I'm going to take? How are you guys going to track where I'm at? How long is it going to take me to get to the place I need to be at? And because the photo shoot is supposed to be at 4:00. That's what I had told the photographer. I didn't want to be, showing up at 4:15 or something like that, or even worse, at like 3:45 early. So we wanted to like have all of that figured out, and we had basically said we basically timed ourselves walking back to the cars, and we were like, okay, that's how long that takes. This is the path that we're going to take. And then the day before, I had a chance to talk with Mike and Payton again, and we were talking about maybe we should actually change the path. It would be a lot better if Gabby had more to look at, and we had more things to go through in the park before getting to the area, because the path that we had sort of marked out beforehand was really quite basic. We wouldn't have gotten to walk through like any of the different flower gardens, or there's a beautiful Japanese gardens section, and that's open this time of year, and every other time that Gabby and I had been to Manitou before, it hadn't been, and I really wanted to be able to have her go through that. And so we were talking about different paths and such, and we agreed that me going to the Japanese gardens first would be better, because it would mean that there would be more time spent wandering around, and that would give everyone more time to prepare and everything. It would also mean that I'd be parking in a different parking lot. This is the part where there was the confusion, because in my mind, I saw parking in a different parking lot as great. Two reasons. Gabby and I, when we had gone to Manitou every single time before, had always parked in the same parking lot. She knows the path to get there. It's also a very similar path to the church that we get to every single time, so we drive past Manitou Park that way. She would know pretty quickly on the drive where we were going. But the Japanese gardens are on the exact opposite side of Manitou, and the parking lot is kind of just like you don't see the parking lot until you realize it's Manitou. So it's a lot better of an effect. It's a different path. I thought it was going to be way better this way. It was for some reason not clear to Mike and Peyton that I would be starting off in the Japanese gardens.
That he would like be actually taking me through the Japanese gardens and not just walking past it.
Yeah. And also like he thought I'd be parking at the same parking lot from beforehand. But if that were the case, I don't even know what path they would have thought I'd be taking to get to the Japanese gardens, because that's so far out of the way. Just a lot of it didn't make a lot of sense. So,
and there was supposed to be someone tailing us.
Right,
Apparently,
right.
There was supposed to be someone tailing us to tell everyone, to be texting and telling everyone to get in their hiding places.
Right. So I had,
and that person never found us.
Mm-hmm. I had mentioned earlier in the podcast that like we wanted a system to be able to track where we were at to coordinate everything. And originally what we were going to have is Nathan parking in the same parking lot as us, already having been there, and when we get out of the car, he would eventually get out of his car and slowly follow behind. You know, it's a Saturday, so there's going to be a decent amount of people here.
Lots and lots of people.
Yeah, and I didn't expect there would be as many people for like prom or anything. I didn't think about that at all, but tons of people are taking photos for prom, so, you know. Or not prom, but graduation, I guess.
There was prom.
Oh, okay. Either way.
I assume they were prom based off of the outfits they were wearing. But there were so many photographers, I actually had even if the photographer had been out in the open, I would have never seen him. I would have like never noticed him, because right near us there was a bunch of people taking prom photos.
Yeah. But yeah, when we were like going through the Japanese gardens at first, I had sent a message that was a Google Maps live sharing my location to Mike. He told me that he never received the message until I had proposed. Like, until I was on one knee. So,
that didn't work.
that didn't work. Nathan had no idea where we were at. And I was just wandering around, you know, trying to go the path that I thought was agreed upon.
And I kept seeing dogs and getting distracted by cute dogs that I had to pet.
And we ended up getting to the spot more like 4:08 or something like that. Not too bad, but longer than I would have wanted. And it would have been way longer if the botanical gardens were not. I don't know why I keep calling it that. The greenhouse was open, because I wanted to.
But
yeah, I wanted to have Gabby walk through that a bit too, just because it's so beautiful. But another reason that we weren't able to do that for photos is that it closes at like 3:30. And for some reason, I knew that well enough to have it be a factor in not choosing that spot to take photos, but I also didn't know it well enough that on the day I basically just forgot that was going to be locked off. So part of the path that I was taking her on was to go look at that, and it was just... yeah, no.
But everyone hid themselves, and they found us, and...
Yeah, because the way that we ended up
going was the wrong way, but...
It was the wrong way, but eventually we ended up on the same path that we would have been on, and we were going under the bridge that we would eventually go over, and they were able to see us from up there.
And get in their hiding spots.
Yeah. So they were able to figure everything out, given what was going on. And yeah, I basically then, from that point, walked her up to the bridge. We cross it.
I see a dog. I start petting a dog.
Yes, exactly.
I think Willem was annoyed at me.
No, not really.
It was a really cute dog.
And there were, we were near where the rose garden was. And then I brought her over to the cherry tree, proposed. The photographer came out from hiding, got a lot closer to take photos, and everyone else revealed themselves. It was great.
Do you want to talk about the hilariousness of you actually proposing?
No.
Why not?
In summary, I stumbled over my words a lot, and after opening up the ring box, I didn't, take the ring out to put it on her finger immediately. She had to remind me that I'm supposed to do that instead of her taking it.
He
So-
goes, "Are you gonna take the ring?" And I was like, I think you're supposed to put it on my finger, right?
I knew that. I genuinely did. I don't know why my brain was just dead. I was
Well,
like,
I mean, to be fair, I think you had like a long speech that you had prepared, and like
Yeah.
you definitely didn't say that, and so you were probably really like
I
out
was
of
in my
it.
head.
You were really like out of it.
Yeah. Previous question that you asked was
Mhm.
what was super stressful, and I had just
Mhm.
gone into like the photographer
Mm-hmm.
details and stuff. Another thing that I didn't even mention is I had to get far enough ahead on schoolwork
Oh yeah.
that I would have enough time to waste a bunch on Thursday, not have to work for the evening of Friday, not have any homework for Saturday or Sunday, and be able to get all homework that's due in the middle of the day on Monday done on time on Monday or already done. That's a lot of working ahead to do, especially with the amount of work that I already have to do.
Yeah.
On top of planning things occasionally are happening last moment. The closer you get to something actually happening, the more details have to get solidified instead of, ooh, I like these options kind of things. So school, huge factor. I don't know how I didn't even mention it. Yeah.
You mentioned, to calm you down and make me not as stressed, that you had 5 dates and 5 engagement options.
Mhm.
Do you want to like talk about that and like how you ended up narrowing it down?
The 18th was the weekend that I was most hopeful for. The weekend right before that was a backup plan. The weekend right after was a backup plan until I knew it was
Not a backup plan.
yeah,
Not an
when she
option.
was going to have the dance recital. And the weekend even before that was even more of a backup plan because I really didn't want to do it over like the day before Easter Sunday. It felt
Here's,
weird
like-
to use Easter weekend.
It's super interesting because so many people, now that like we're engaged, so many people are like, why didn't he propose on your 2-year anniversary? And while some Christians would think it's totally normal and think it's totally acceptable, and tons of Christians get engaged on Easter weekend, our 2-year anniversary was Good Friday. And yeah, Jesus died for our sins, but also it seems really weird as
To be proposing on the day that we celebrate Jesus dying.
it felt weird to me, and that's the whole reason I kind of knew it wasn't going to be that weekend,
Yeah.
is because just it felt weird for both of us to have that as an option.
I thought the flowers were going to be more likely to be in bloom the later into spring it was going to be.
Also, it was going to be warmer.
Which is part of the
It's
reason.
been really cold this spring, certain times.
Which is part of the reason I was also really considering doing it on May 2nd. I didn't want to push it out all the way to May. And I think if I had chosen the weekend prior to the one that I ended up going with, things would have been even less in bloom than they were.
The only person who saw the ring before he proposed was Mike.
Yeah.
Because Mike was helping plan the whole thing. So,
and I was even like hesitant when I had a chance to show Mike, and I was like, this is really just meant for Gabby. Do I even want to... Yeah, no, take a look at it. I'm really happy about this. Take a look. And that's what happened. But yeah, I mean, a bunch of people have asked to look at your ring now.
Oh yeah,
And,
so many.
yeah.
Every single one of my classes, everyone's like, oh my god, let me look at it.
All good things.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so shiny. Whoa, there's a diamond everywhere you look. Things like that, which there literally is. It's absolutely gorgeous. Is there anything, like looking back, like now, is there anything you would have done differently in the planning process? Other than, get in contact with the photographer earlier.
Well, I get in contact with everyone. I regret, even really close friends of mine, like Simon and Tadman, I took a long time into the process of everything to actually let them know that anything that was going on, let alone talking to my parents or my brother Pierce, or I could have even talked to my brother Garrett more about it. The main thing that I regret is not only just making it more stressful for myself than I needed to be, procrastinating things, but also procrastinating talking to people. I should have spent more time doing that, definitely.
There's like a text chain with Willem and my parents, and so last weekend, okay, also, just for all of you guys who are planning on maybe getting engaged or honestly just want to know things for events, if you get acrylics, know how fast your fingernails grow. I almost never get my fingernails done. I have gotten my toenails done since I was 5, like professionally done since I was 5. But I almost never get my fingernails done, and I've never done acrylics, and I almost never get gel on my fingers. I had no idea how fast my fingernails grew. And so Willem got me, well, technically not a nail appointment, but he got me a time to go get my nails done with one of my friends, Greta. And he paid for it, and I got acrylics. They were super long, like ridiculously long. Like I couldn't do anything with them. But the good news, not only did I cut them, but the good news is that good and bad news, is that they grew out so fast. Within 1 week, I had to re-get my nails done, because they had grown out.
I, in part, was trying to plan things where it was like she would be unsure about which weekend it was going to be. And so I was purposely going to try to like plan the timing to be as ambiguous to which weekend the nails would be for when I would tell her to go get her nails done. But in reality, her nails weren't going to last a week. So it would end up being the weekend of whenever she would get her most recent touch up on the nails.
And it's really funny because he actually asked me like multiple times during the process how long nails usually last, and my answer was a month because that's what I had always had for my toenails. Was
wrong.
But I was so wrong. So if you guys are getting your fingernails done for something you know you want them to look absolutely gorgeous for, make sure you know how fast your nails grow.
Yeah.
They're already starting to grow out, and I got these redone on Friday.
Also, if you're not used to having long nails, it's really easy to chip them brushing your hands against stuff that you're so used to knowing the proportions of your hands on. Yeah, so timeline post the actual, moment, photos, everything. Wow, look at all these people. Also, thing we didn't mention, there was a crowd of people getting prom photos or something taken who ended up applauding.
It was so cute.
After I put the ring on the finger and hugged her. They started applauding, and I was like, exactly what I wanted. It was funny.
I think it was a good combo because I'm going to be honest, I didn't really want like a super, super public thing. But I felt like it wasn't, even though it was, and there were people clapping. I didn't feel like I was claustrophobic crowd-wise.
Really worried about that at first, especially the Japanese gardens were very crowded, and that's one of the places that Mike Payton and I had been considering, like trying to find places to propose at, just because it's so beautiful. And
it's beautiful.
I think that would have been great, but. In retrospect, it really wouldn't have been. It was one of the most crowded places in the entirety of Manitou Park that day, and that time. So I'm really happy that the specific area that we were in with the cherry tree had so few people walking through the rose gardens, and that it was also away from the rose gardens far enough that like we had our own space.
Right after he proposed, like our friends come out and we start talking and we're hugging and we're laughing and everyone's looking at the ring and we're talking. And then Willem goes, "Oh, and you know how I mentioned that Garrett and Bria weren't going to be here? So we're actually going to meet them at the restaurant."
We were really lucky that we were able to have dinner with him.
Dinner was delicious.
So we ended up going, I think I had mentioned earlier in the podcast, the restaurant's called Tomato Street.
Delicious.
Yes, Italian food, my favorite.
And then we went back to the house and we played I think we played Cards Against Humanity.
We did. Yep.
Freshly engaged playing Cards Against Humanity.
Mhm.
What's the most college thing ever? I guess that. Yeah. We played Cards Against Humanity. We went to bed really late, and then Willem and I went to church the next morning.
Mhm.
Tons of people asked me lots of questions about the ring at church and about planning. Tons of people have looked at my ring and absolutely loved it, so good job. I love it. Not only do I love it, so many people love it, so good job on picking that.
I just remembered something else that we totally forgot. You know, having an engagement at 4 p.m., you still have to fill up the early part of the day.
Yes. Yep.
So I didn't even mention this, but Gabby and I went to go get brunch at a crepe place that we used to go to way more often. After we came back from church, I think we spent like, I don't even know how many hours playing Wii Sports.
Oh yeah, you guys were playing them a lot.
Until Gabby had to go to dance, and we left to go watch the Super Mario Bros. Movie.
We also like called everyone that day though too.
Oh, that's true. I guess it wasn't just
Mario.
Yeah. Oh, and Monopoly.
Yes.
We played a really long game of Monopoly.
I won. I have to say I won.
She did.
I beat Peyton and I. Everyone else sort of went bankrupt, I think, between hour 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And Peyton and I were playing for another 2 hours after everyone else went bankrupt. My closing question is, what advice would you give to someone currently planning or about to plan a proposal? Is there, like, lots of advice you would give them? What things?
Okay. There's so many, like, variables. It depends on if they want it to be a surprise or not. If we're assuming that they want it to be a surprise, the main advice that I would give would be, like, number one, make sure you have a fallback date that is a weekend after, at least, the time that you want to propose. And so that way, like, and lead them to believe that it's going to be the weekend after if you can't help the fact that they're going to be able to tell that a proposal is coming up. Because it is a much better surprise for something to happen earlier than expected than later than expected. But also, especially as you get closer to the day, it's going to become harder and harder to hide the fact that all these things that are going on that aren't normally what's going on in your life have to do with an engagement.
Yeah, lots of, like, this is just, like, statistical, but lots of couples fight right before they get engaged. Just because, you know, well, like...
Where were you out last night?
Well, it's not just...
You haven't been coming back from work at your regular times.
Things like that, things like hiding phones, things like text messages, things like...
Baby, are you cheating on me?
I'm, like, you know... their mannerisms change and things like that because they're hiding something. And so, like, naturally, like, people, like, a lot of people, like, fight before that.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
if they're trying to be a surprise.
So, yeah. Make sure... There are all sorts of things that if you're going to have alibis, you have to make sure make sense. And be prepared to, like... You really ought to try to make it look like it's going to happen a different weekend than it is, but only, like, concede to that point when you're getting closer and closer to it, and when you can't really hide the fact that something is going on. And don't actually just say, oh, hey, it's happening on this date. That's not what you'd be doing. You would still, assuming you're trying to keep it a surprise still, you would be like, so there's going to be this event on Saturday where I think we should really go on a picnic on Saturday or something in reference to that one instead of whatever the solution is for how you want the other thing to work. Yeah.
But yeah, I really, really love the ring. And now we get to wedding plan, and I think it's going to be chaotic. But we are not looking to have our wedding until after Willem graduates. So we have over a year. A really long episode about the whole engagement and talking all about that and stuff. And we're almost at the 2-hour long mark, guys.
Yeah,
So
it is 10 o'clock.
we are going to end this, like, right now. I will show the camera my ring. But yeah, this is Gabby.
And this is Willem.
And we're signing off. Bye.
Bye.